All right. Good afternoon. Good evening, everyone. Welcome to the Office of Assemblymember Khalil M. Anderson Safety for Our Sisters Anti-Violence and Wellness Workshop. We are bringing greetings from the Assembly member today. My name is Monet Schultz, and I am his Deputy Chief of Staff and Legislative Director. And it is my honor to join you all today to host this fireside chat about domestic violence, intimate partner violence, and just the overall nature of gratuitous violence in our communities, particularly as it relates to violence against women and those that are identified as female. So I have some really amazing organizations that are going to join us this evening. If you'd like to share this live video with your peers or your colleagues, you can find it streaming live on YouTube as well as our Facebook page, or you can use the bit.ly to join our Zoom room that is also watching this live. So really happy to be here all with you today. And I would like to add our first panelist to the stream. We have Simone from the Jahaji Sisters, our partners over in the South Ozone Park, South Richmond Hill, part of our district. So excited to have you here today, Simone. Please talk to us. Please bring remarks from the Jahaji Sisters. And I know first you want to start off with something that's very, very special and integral to the work that you do.
Yeah, peace, everyone. I'm so grateful to be with you all tonight. My name is Simone Davy Jingor. I'm one of the co-founders and co-directors of Jahaji Sisters. And before we even dive into this powerful conversation that we're going to have this evening, I wanted to invite everyone to step into a grounding activity, a somatic body scan, just so we can arrive together. We can feel present. We can feel in our bodies. I know it's been a really busy day. It's been a long day for me. And grounding is just the way that helps me to be present and in the moment. So I just want to invite you all, wherever you're sitting, just feel your feet on the ground. Roll your shoulders back to feel your spine lengthening, almost as though there's this imaginary string on the top of your head pulling you up. And we're going to take some deep breaths. And when we breathe, we're breathing in through our nose, out through our mouth, and we're feeling the breath come from our belly. So I'm just going to show you all what that looks like. You can have your eyes open or closed. You can have your hands on your lap, whatever feels comfortable for you. We are in choice right now. So I'm going to get us started. Right now, as you take a deep breath in and slowly exhale, just feel your feet on the ground. Feel yourself rooted in the earth. The earth is what nurtures and sustains us. And we're just going to keep moving up and we're going to be moving through each of the body parts right now. And there's no changing anything. It's just noticing as we build awareness and presence. So feel your calves, feel your kneecaps, feel your thighs, feel your hips, feel your navel. I like to say that our navel is our life force. It's where we hold all of our power. So we're going to take a deep breath into that place of power to activate it. Moving up, we're going to feel our fingers, our forearms, our elbows. We're going to feel our shoulders. If you want, you can roll them back a little. Going to feel our upper back and our lower back. And moving up, we're going to bring our attention to our heart. Our heart is where we hold love for ourselves and love for our people, our community, but mostly love for ourselves. So we're going to take a deep breath into our heart chakra just to activate it. Exhale. Moving up to our throat. Our throat is where we hold our creativity, where we speak truth to power. We speak our truth and share our stories. So just breathe into your throat chakra right now to activate it. We're going to move up to our face. Feel your ears, your mouth, your nose, and just bring your attention to that spot right between your eyebrows. Call this your third eye. Third eye is where we hold intuition, where we hold our vision for what we want for our life. And just take a deep breath into your third eye right now to activate it. We're going to take 3 more grounding breaths together. And on each of these exhales, let a sound out. It's you releasing anything that you don't need right now in this moment. I'm just going to model that. So we're going to do 3 of these deep breaths. In, exhales out with a sound just to release what isn't serving us. Deep breath in and exhale. Deep breath in and exhale. And one last time, going at your own pace. Take a deep breath in and exhale. And when you're ready, if you had your eyes closed, you can open them just to bring your awareness back. I know that we're virtual right now, but there's still ways that we can connect to each other through listening to our words. And again, I want to thank you all so much for inviting me and Jahaji Sisters to be here tonight. I'm really honored to be sharing this space with so many amazing advocates and activists who are doing this work to address the root causes of gender-based violence. And I just want to talk a little bit about the work that we do with Jihadi Sisters. So Jihadi Sisters is a gender justice organization that activates Indo-Caribbeans in New York to put an end to intimate partner, family, and sexual violence. Our community of support guides women, girls, and gender non-binary people to heal and create lasting change. Through arts activism, leadership development, and grassroots organizing, we amplify survivor voices and visions to transform culture. We're a healing and political home for Indo-Caribbeans who've been impacted by and are vulnerable to experiencing gender-based violence. And we organize with them to take action for gender justice. We create a loving community where our siblings can feel seen, can feel heard, and can feel affirmed, and where we can forge a powerful cultural identity, remembering and reconnecting to our ancestral lineage as a source of strength and resiliency. Jahaji Sisters envisions a world where all women, all girls, and all people across the gender spectrum are safe and thriving and are seen in their full dignity. Our work was catalyzed in 2007 by the brutal murders of several young Indo-Caribbean women in New York City who lost their lives to gender-based violence. I'd like to remember them right now and invoke their spirits this evening, as they are the reason we do this work. I'm just going to say their names: Natasha Raymond, Gayatri Hardat, Amrita Khan, Rajwanti Baldeo, Marissa Singh, Stacy Singh, and Rahana Joy. It's also important to note that our work sits at the intersection of racial and gender justice. We know that there is no way that we can work to uproot generations of patriarchy that is so deeply ingrained in our culture and has shaped our people without also addressing white supremacy. We are deeply committed to centering those in this country who are most impacted by gender-based and state-sanctioned violence, and that's Black women and also Black trans women. We know that our liberations are all inherently linked, and that's how we move in this work. So I just want to talk a little bit about some of our strategies and the programs that we have. So at Jahaji Sisters, we use multiple strategies to support survivors. We center healing in a trauma-informed way. Many of us doing the work at Jahaji Sisters are survivors, including myself, and we understand that the trauma that stems from violence is real. Whether you've experienced it firsthand or witnessed it in your home growing up, it stays with you, and that's why healing is so important. We also believe in dismantling the roots of patriarchy in our community and transforming culture. At the core of this is our advocacy and organizing work for systems change. And just a little bit about some of the recent work that we've been doing. We launched our Leadership and Empowerment Institute last fall. And through the 7-month program, we support folks ages 14 to 60 to build self-awareness, to develop resiliency practices for growth and transformation, and become empowered to find their voice and agency. This is also coupled with political education to support folks to build an anti oppression ideology and developing skills for organizing our community. And right now, we have for the first time an entrepreneurship track to support survivors who want to start their own business. We know that economic justice is also deeply intersected with gender justice. And there's so many reasons survivors stay in harmful and toxic situations. But what we've noticed in our work is, and especially throughout COVID, has been economic reliance on abusive partners and family members. So part of how we support survivors to thrive is to think about how they can self determine their own prosperous future. And we believe that entrepreneurship could be a pathway to that. We also have community circles that are monthly wellness and healing spaces. Um, Through these circles, we support survivors to find community, to recognize that they are not alone, to have opportunities to break bread together and connect, to share their stories and engage in workshops that leave them feeling empowered. Through our emergency fund, we support survivors and undocumented women who've been impacted by COVID to find some kind of economic relief. We give up to 500 in cash assistance to support basic needs like groceries, rent, and childcare. We know that it's 500 isn't a lot, but for our people, it's been at least supporting them in a small way. And since COVID began, we've given out close to $50,000, which for a small grassroots organization is a pretty big deal. And through the emergency fund, we also provide case management, which includes emotional support and referrals to other critical direct services like immigration, mental health, and housing support. We've actually had a lot of survivors lately who just came here from Guyana and Trinidad because the abuse was so terrible in their home country. The only relief they had was actually to leave and come to New York, where they actually don't have a lot of support systems. So Jahaji Sisters has become their community of support and healing. Finally, our advocacy and organizing work in coalition with others is what allows us to make systems change. One example is our work through the Fund Excluded Workers campaign, which Assemblymember Anderson has been a huge supporter of. It allowed us to collectively win $2.1 billion to support excluded workers in our community and across New York State. Just recently, earlier this month, we shut down the Brooklyn Bridge and marched by foot to Albany to demand another $3 billion in economic relief to support excluded workers. So this is just a little bit about how we're addressing gender-based violence in our community and how we're doing our work to keep our people safe and thriving. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Simone. That was so amazing. The work that the Jahaji sisters are doing is instrumental and iconic for what we're seeing across women's rights and humans' rights. And a lot of the isms that we're fighting are connected, right? When we're talking about housing justice, education, human safety, all of those things are connected. So thank you so much for not only your grounding exercise, but giving us that resource, right? And throughout the programming, there's going to be a number of organizations and partners that are going to be able to share what their organization does and how we support this work. So thank you again, Simone. And I am now going to bring up Miss Christina Blackburn from Vanguard Medicine, also from Human Compassion. And she has so many titles and is a part of so many organizations. I can't wait for you all to hear from her. So without further ado, while I just edit your name so we can put some context into your title on who you are, we really would love to hear from you, Christina. Thank you.
Thank you, Deputy Chief of Staff Schultz. Oh, can you hear me? Okay. Thank you so much for inviting me to this amazing event. And with these amazing women and organizations, I'm so happy to be a part of this event and also the event that we had this morning, talking about the two bills that we are trying to put in place to help protect victims and to get their families more support and resources and help when a person becomes missing who has experienced violence in the home. My name is Christina Blackburn, and I work with two different projects. One is Speranza Human Compassion Project, and Speranza just means hope in Italian. So it's essentially the Hope Project, where we do research, we develop courses, we do innovative work around domestic violence, gender based violence in communities. And primarily, our focus is women between 18 to 54 who have small children in the home. And through Speranza, we work with first responders and training them essentially on how to be compassionate with someone who's been recently victimized um, and is the victim of a violent crime, but in particular, a domestic violence victim in the target population that we serve. Through Vanguard Medicine, which is our technology arm, we essentially take all the resources and innovative things that we develop through the nonprofit and put it into the technology so that it can be used in many different formats, whether it's in hospitals, whether the training is going to be with police officers, whether it's with firefighters, whoever we might be training, we use the technology then to send it out to many different agencies. So that's a little bit about what I do. I've been working on this work since 2012. I am a survivor of domestic violence, which is how the organizations began. Essentially, I landed in the emergency department as a victim. And mind you, I had just had a baby 4 months prior at the same hospital, and I was just lavished over. And they were like, "Oh, Christina, mommy to be, blah, blah, blah." It was my third child, so it wasn't the first one. But they were amazing. And so when I presented 4 months later as a victim, I'm like, okay, these people are going to know what to do. They know me. We also had our 2-year-old there a few years prior. They were amazing. So I pretty much knew everybody that worked there. But when I entered as a victim, I was treated completely different. I was belittled, I was talked down to, I was yelled at, I was made to feel like I was stupid. And I just, and I always say this, I don't think that you should talk to any patient that way, but especially not one that almost lost a life to the hand of their partner. And I remember at one point saying, I do have insurance, like you guys are going to get paid for this. I mean, that they were just treating me so poorly, like I just couldn't imagine anybody else being treated that way. So when I was actually able to get myself and my children to safety, and a few years later, probably like 5 or 6 years later, I started doing some research to see if my case was isolated or if this was happening to more women and children when they are reaching out for help. And we just found out that there's a huge need for training and support for these people that are working on the front line of um, domestic violence, right? So when we think about police officers, what do they need to be effective with victims and to be supportive and actually to care? Like, what do we need to give them to allow them to have some empathy and some compassion? When I think about doctors, because these are probably the primary two places that victims are going to go if there's emergent, need. They've either been injured or they're going to call 911. And so, what do our doctors and our nurses that are handling these patients? What do they need to be? How can we best support them as they're supporting us, right? We know that both of these professions, they do hard work every day, right? They deal with the worst of the worst, right? And they're very stressed and they're very stretched. So we thank God that we have them, right? Because where would we be without police officers? Where would we be without our doctors and nurses? We need them. But we also need to make sure that they are aware of what they need, right? And where the gaps are and how and so this is kind of an area. It was, and actually gender-based violence has been kind of a white space for a long time. There's a lot of training and support around human trafficking, around sexual assault, even child abuse. There's a lot of programs, there's a lot of funding, there's a lot of research in those areas. When we think about gender-based violence, probably the bulk are women with small children in a home, and usually it's multiple children. And these are some of the most vulnerable individuals because it's really hard to believe when you have multiple children. A lot of times the women aren't working, which I wasn't when I left. And so it really puts you in a financial abusive situation. It puts you in a a place where you can also be like mentally abused, physically abused by someone who has an abusive mentality. And so, so this is our target audience, and this is where we hope to serve, because we don't see much new innovation in this area. We don't see many new programs. We don't see a lot being done on like a national scale for this population, though. So that's why when these bills come out, we want to support them, because they can be statewide or national bills to change things, right? To make things better for these individuals who are struggling. And in the state of New York, I'm sorry, in the city of New York, pre-pandemic, there was about 700 calls every single day to 911, just for domestic violence calls. And we know that half of them will require emergency medical treatment, and that's every single day for the past 10 years. So, what can we do to start bringing down those numbers? What can we do to reduce those numbers? How can we have more of an impact on the ground, because if you think about it, pretty much every victim is going to probably touch a first responder, right? And this first responder can come in many different forms. It could be the doctor, it could be a family or friend, could be a first responder. That's who you reach out to first when something happens. It could be that 911 caller that's responding when you call. It could be a domestic violence hotline. It can be the police. It can be the domestic violence shelter. Also, firefighters and EMS, if you think about it. So, all these people currently aren't receiving any training on this, but yet they are expected to respond. They are expected to be the one when you're in crisis at the moment that's going to help, but they haven't received much training. So, of course, they're going to do the wrong thing because they don't know what the right thing is. So this is how we need to start thinking about violence against, women and children, and how we can be more of the solution. So that's kind of a little bit about what my two projects that I'm currently working on do. When we think about, and I know I'm supposed to be talking about some of the ways to identify domestic violence, and so one area that I think that we need to start thinking about are some of the adverse outcomes of violence at home, right? So when we start to think within ourselves, what does that look like, right? When we how does that feel within our body when we have become victimized, right? So that can come out in anxiety, right? And depression. So these are some of the things that we ask our doctors to look out for when patients come in. They might not report being a victim, but if they have a lot of anxiety and depression, you want to start asking about their relationship and how their relationship is at home. Not the standard question that when you go into the ED, they might ask, well, do you feel safe in your home? And then the next thing is, do you have any pain in your knee? Right. So they quickly glaze over that question, but nobody's going to answer that. Well, I mean, a few people probably do, but they're missing the bulk of victims that are coming in. So, like, when somebody presents and they are presenting with like anxiety and depression, or even a level of post traumatic stress disorder, which is PTSD, then you want to start asking those deeper questions, and even of ourselves, right? Why am I feeling anxious a lot? Why am I feeling depressed? Like, what's going on? Why am I feeling a sense of hopelessness? Because essentially that's what depression is. And when I was talking with a police officer about domestic violence, because I pretty much talk to everybody at every chance I get about this, and he explained to me that when men become depressed, they take it out on those closest to them. And when women get depressed, they take it out on themselves. They take it like internally. So that's one of the signs of someone who may be suffering from some type of abuse at home. Another thing is traumatic brain injury. So when we think about victims of domestic violence, they often have a lot of head trauma, right? So they're getting punched in the face. Maybe they're getting slammed against, their head is getting slammed against things. Maybe they're getting strangled, or, they often receive multiple head trauma. And this is a thing that's now being studied in this field, because they've traditionally been studying TBI for football players and boxers, but now they're starting to look at it for domestic violence victims as well. So that's something else that we have to think about when it comes to domestic violence: the long-term health outcomes of being repeatedly hitting your head. Sometimes victims are experiencing chronic or crippling fear, right? So you're always afraid when you're a victim of domestic violence because you don't know what this person might do at any moment. And that stays with you long term. Once you get in that pattern of fear, right, and living in fear chronically, that doesn't just go away when when the relationship ends or you're able to get to safety. You still have that chronic and crippling fear that may be long term and ongoing. So just identifying that within yourself or within others. Um, Mistrust of people, right? When you've lived with someone or you've been partnered with someone who's been abusive to you long term, it's really hard to trust others, right? So you have like a long term mistrust of people. Also, there could be some alcohol or drug use, right? Because sometimes people medicate because they can't get away from this person. Maybe they're not working, or they rely on this person that's their husband. They have a future planned with this person and they don't want to leave, but they also don't want to, want this person harming them in these ways. So they'll try to self-medicate with maybe alcohol or drug use. And these things do happen. Chronic anger, right? You're always angry because you can't take the anger out on the person that's actually causing you pain. So you then take it out on your coworkers, right? Or you take it out on your children. So that's another sign that something might be happening in the relationship. Burnout, right? You get burnt out from all of the mental strain of dealing with someone who's been abusive to you, right? Whether it's verbally abusive, physically, mentally, financially. And at some point, it might be all of them. So you start to feel burnt out, like doctors start to feel burnt out, right? Doctors are dealing with a lot all day. They're working like 26, 27-hour shifts. It's high stress. They got to go, go, go. Well, it's the same thing with a victim, right? You have children you have to feed, you have work you have to deal with, and you have no place really to rest your head because home is actually the place that's causing you the most pain. So you get burnt out, right? You don't sleep well, you're probably not eating well. So burnout can be another thing that victims experience. Chronic sadness, right? When you have tried everything that you can do, right, with it, that's what's in your power to try to get this person to just love you and respect you and to treat you kindly, and nothing you can do is working. Sometimes you just have a chronic sadness and it's underlying and you don't know where it comes from, but it could be because of the abusive relationship. Catastrophizing. I know I was doing this when I first left my abuser, just like in chronic fear that he was going to locate me and kill me. And I was actually doing an event one time and I was talking about this and I was very transparent that I was still living in a lot of fear. This is maybe, I don't know, maybe 7, 8 years ago. And a lady afterwards, she came up to me and she was like, I could tell that you're still really, this is really still fresh for you, even though it's been like 5, 6 years. And I was like, yeah, it is. Like, I still every day, I'm really fearful. And so she just really processed it with me. And she was like, well, are you in any immediate danger? And I was like, well, no. And she was like, okay. She was like, well, do you really think, I mean, I'm states away now from him. I'm like in a whole different state. And so she's like, well, do you really think he was, drive to where you are and find you and murder you? Now it does happen. It does happen. She's like, but is that a real threat for you right now? And I was like, well, no. She was like, it's been 6 years. He hasn't done that, right? And I was like, well, no. So I noticed when she was like processing with me that I had this catastrophizing in my mind that been making it much bigger and a much bigger problem than it actually was at that point. I was really not in any imminent danger, but in the back of in my mind, I was. And it's been 15 years since I've left and nothing's happened. So that was really helpful for me to realize that I was doing that to myself. And some, this might be helpful for other people. Um, and, just also staying on top of your children and making sure that you know what's happening and is aware of what's happening in your home. What happened with me is I didn't know I was a victim of domestic violence. I just thought I was in this crazy marriage and my husband was angry all the time. I did not realize I was being victimized every day until I landed in the emergency department. And I almost felt like, I had a black eye. They thought he fractured part of my face. I had to get stitches in my head because we had like 3 limestone fireplaces, and he just took my head and banged it against the fireplace, and like blood was gushing everywhere. So I had to get stitches. So I had this big old patch over my head where they put stitches in my forehead. And um, you know, I so yeah, so that was kind of like a Lifetime movie. I felt like I'm like, what is happening? Like I'm putting makeup over my eye. Like I've never envisioned myself being in that type of situation. But when I landed in the emergency department is when I kind of realized, okay, this is really serious. And I wish that I had realized that earlier, but I had no reference point. Like I never knew anybody that had experienced domestic violence before. I never really saw anything on TV that said this is what a victim is. Is this happening to you in your home? But when I recognized it, of course, at when it got that bad, I was able to take agency over my life, and I went down a different path. And I said, "Oh no, never again. This will never happen to me again." And I've put things in place within my future relationships. So I make sure for myself that if I'm not enjoying the relationship at least 90% of the time, I do give 10% of the time where I'm like, okay, we can argue, or there might be some discrepancy, but more than 10%, I'm not doing it, because I said relationships are to come together, to have fun, to enjoy each other, to work together on goals and things like that. It should not be where I wake up in the morning, we're arguing all day, and you're cussing me out in front of my friends, people at the grocery store, in front of my children, and disrespecting me. And that's what it had gotten to for myself within my marriage. And so now I keep a really tight rein on that, and on my happiness level, and on my experience within the relationship, so that I make sure that I'm not falling back into those old patterns of allowing someone to mistreat me for long periods of time, and essentially abuse me, and my children then witnessing that. So just being aware of what's happening within your relationship, what's happening within your home, and of your children's well-being, right? If you have small children, or any children in the home, is really important. If children are not sleeping well, if what my son, so when we left, our oldest was 11, we had a 2-year-old and a 4-month-old. And so our 11-year-old was like, "Mom, I'm scared to go to school because I don't know what'll happen to you when I leave." And so that really broke my heart, went to realize how this was affecting my kids when I didn't even realize it, right? I'm just every day trying to save myself from getting like hurt every single day. And I had such tunnel vision that I didn't realize how it was impacting my children, and still until my 11-year-old kind of told me that. And so, we really have to be mindful of what the kids are seeing, what they're witnessing, and how it's impacting them. And so that's a little bit about like things that you can consider if you or someone close to you are experiencing violence. And yeah, and that's what I wanted to share. If anybody has any questions, I'm completely open to answering any.
Thank you so much, Christina, for being so brave and sharing that with our audience. Sometimes it takes another person explaining it and sort of drawing parallels to really sort of take an audit of what we're experiencing in our lives as, Black women, as women of, working class and things of that nature. So I'm going to just take you off the screen for just a couple seconds. You're going to join back in the end when we're talking about some resources. And I'm going to bring up some ladies to start off our fireside chat. So I would like to add Miss Shavonna Warmington from Ladies of Lavender Inc. Incorporated, a nonprofit over here in the Springfield Garden section of the 31st Assembly District. Shavonna, would you say a few words?
Good evening, everybody. As mentioned, I'm the CEO and founder of Ladies of Lavender Incorporated in Springfield Gardens, Queens. I operate an emergency transport service for victims of domestic violence. So one thing I realized being a survivor is escape is something that if they don't have a way to get out, they're not going to go. And a lot of the times it's how do I move, especially when you have children or just going through the abuse itself, it kind of puts you into a mental prison. It disables you. So you might need that extra assistance to get out. I didn't have that. All I had was my vehicle. I didn't have someone to move me for me. So I moved me. And I realized that these people need the help. They need someone to say, hey, I'll take you to safety. I'll get you to a shelter. I'll get you to somebody's safe house. I'll just get you away from here. So I started that, ended up opening up to doing pretty much resources throughout the community, providing groups. We would have car giveaways, back to school supply giveaways, little things to let them know, like, we're here, we see you. And it's more than just saying we're a nonprofit. Like, we're really out here rebuilding the holes in our community. I guess I'll say more later on, so I'll pass the mic over.
Thank you so much, Savannah. We're so honored to have you. I see here we have Miss Angelina Rosado that is on the screen. Angelina is the founder of Returning Hope, a nonprofit that serves the entire New York City and eventually the state as well. So, Angelina, if you want to introduce yourself.
Hi, hello. Thank you guys for having me. So, yes, I'm Angelina Rosado. I am the founder and executive director of Returning Hope, which is a nonprofit domestic violence organization. And I help educate survivors, the youth. I help educate educators and overall our community, and having that conversation and what that may look like and sound like. I do serve not just this state, but other continents as well. I was able to connect with so many survivors throughout the world and actually helping them seek help and safety. So that's something that I'm very proud of and I'm excited. And all through Facebook, I will say that. I also wear the hat as Queen's Defenders Dove case worker. So that was my new appointed position with Queen's Defenders. And I'm so excited and ready to, start this work as well with Queen's Defenders.
Got it. So now I'm going to bring up your colleague, Miss Madison, if you'd like to just share a few words about your work. And I'm also going to then join our community partners as well. We have Rosalind Mason, and we have Kali Thompson as well. So we're going to have a nice little fireside chat. And I have a couple questions for you ladies. But Madison, take it away. Oh, Madison, you're on mute.
Hi, everyone. Thank you. And I'm honored to be here tonight to support this very important topic of safety for our sisters. I am also new to Queens Defenders, along with Angelina. I'm an MSW caseworker at the Queens Defenders Far Rockaway location. And Far Rockaway is very important to me. It's a passion for me to pour into the community. And so when I found out about this bill, and as everyone knows, Destiny's Mothers is originally from Far Rockaway, it always hits hard when we hear about domestic violence victims. But for me, it hit exceptionally hard, even more hard. This is my backyard. This is my stomping grounds. And to be part of a legislative movement in which we're actually holding law enforcement accountable. We are holding the senators and the assembly people who want to support us accountable. I'm super excited to be here. I'm also really excited that a big part of this bill is not just law enforcement changing the way that they operate in response to missing persons or domestic violence victims, survivors, and loved ones, but also that the mental health factors are addressed. As you alluded to earlier during the this morning's briefing, there's trauma, there is harm that's psychological that we don't see, and like as Christina Blackburn also said earlier, there's no script for it on television. People don't talk about it. And Angelina said it earlier in a briefing. Sometimes it's too heavy a topic for people to mention, but we need to be uncomfortable with these uncomfortable conversations. That's the only way there's going to be change and solutions that's effective. So I'm truly honored and blessed to be a part of this conversation and part of the movement. Thank you guys for having me.
Thank you so much. So now Kali, if you'd like to introduce yourself.
I feel like you're echoing. Is it me? Hi, everybody. Hello. My name is Carly Thompson. I am the Service Coordinator Manager for the Ocean Bay CDC organization. We are a nonprofit organization that deals with all social service issues. So I was invited here specifically to speak about the fact that one of our initiatives is a women's group. So we have a bi-monthly women's group that occurs every other Monday. Actually, Monday the 28th is our next session. And this women's group is just set, it was set up to just be able to have a safe space for women to be able to express themselves, all different topics. So we speak about a lot of different things. It's a very truthful, honest place. It's intergenerational. So we have women as young as their, late 20s, early 30s, all the way up to one of our oldest members is in their 80s. I won't put our business out there in the streets though. And we we do this because we know as women we need a safe space. As women we need a place for us to be able to express ourselves and talk about whatever ails us on that particular week. So I'm excited to be invited here. Ocean Bay as a whole offers a lot of social service offers opportunities for the residents of the Rockaways. My information will be available through the Assemblyman's office when they put this information out. But I'm just here to support the women and let everybody know that Ocean Bay CDC has a women's group that already is currently meeting twice a month, and everyone is welcome. It's usually Mondays between 1 and 3 p.m. It's held at the Ocean Bay Community Center, which is located at 5710 Beach Channel Drive. And we're here to talk and discuss. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Carly. And I'm gonna bring Roslyn up here when she hops back in the stream. We can get started on the first question. Oh, here Roz goes. Hello. Hi, Roslyn. So we have Roslyn here about Far Rockaway. So we love when we have the most familiar face. You'll see her everywhere. I was on the phone with her earlier, and people just would not stop saying hello when I was trying to just talk to her. So, Roslyn, no need for an introduction. Go ahead and introduce yourself and what your organization does.
Hi, ladies. I just want to say, I'm grateful also to be on this platform. So many dynamic women that I haven't met before. And so that was great. And it was a pleasure just to see what we're all doing and how we are servicing our community. As I said before, on another platform, is that I like to be amongst the movers and the shakers, as my father would say. And the movers and the shakers is on this line right here tonight. So, and I really see that and I can appreciate that. So I definitely want to link up with you ladies and, we get together and just do more things for our community. I mean, in and out of Rockaway, I'm all for it. My name is Roslyn Mason. As some of you guys may know, I am the co-founder of Queens Royal Priesthood, and I could never ever say Queens Royal Priesthood without saying my sister Queen, who is the founder of Queens Royal Priesthood, who is not on this line tonight, but her and I like to often say, when you see her, you see me, and when you see me, you see her. So just note that that's what it is. We are one unit, and we work together, and we like to believe in ourselves as a powerful force, and I believe that's what we are. And so Queens Royal Priesthood does a number of things. But today I know that I was asked here to talk about our program, HERS, specifically. But at the end of the day, Queens Royal Priesthood is into a lot of different things. But our HERS program is specifically for young women, which is called Healing, Empowerment, and Restoration of Self, in which that program is actually going on right now as we speak. I think I have a couple of my ladies that are on Zoom that are with us tonight as well. And so what that program does is it's really an opportunity to help our young women basically really dream again and basically understand the power that they necessarily have. That's why it's called healing and empowerment, because we're trying to empower them. We're trying to change their minds. We're trying to let them know that they have opportunity and that they've always had opportunity. Opportunity is here. You just have to go after it. And so that's what we really go for. It's a lot of motivation, a lot of motivational speaking, a lot of just getting to know one another, understanding the power of self-care within that. One of the examples, we did vision boards for our lovely young ladies. And when we did those vision boards, they put down things that they wanted from three. And when we revisited vision board, a lot of those women had, a lot of those young ladies had accomplished. Can you guys hear me? Oh, okay. And accomplished some of those things. A young lady stated that she wanted to get a drive. Vision boards and pulling them back out so that they could really see what they wanted to accomplish, and then they accomplished it, was extremely powerful. And I want to give a huge and big shout out to CCNY, which is Child Center of New York. They have always been a huge supporter of QRP, and we actually run that HERS program every Thursday night from 6 to 9 at 339 Beach 54th Street, right in that center. And Rob Cross has always been amazing, and Amanda just really, really just in our corner and pushing for it. We do several programs within there, so we have not forgotten about our young men. So I don't want my young men to think that we forgot about them, because we also have another program that's called VOT. Sorry, I got to sneak it in. That's called VOT, and it's all for young men, and these ages are from 14 to 24 for the HERS program and for the VOT program. So we have one just specifically for young women, and we didn't forget about the young men, and that VOT is vocational and occupational training. And I want to give a big shout out to them. That program goes on, sorry guys, that program goes on Monday nights, once again, at CCNY in Redfern Community Center. So that's why I said I could never go on with talking about QRP and some of the amazing things that we do throughout the community without giving a shout out to CCNY, because they've always been there, and especially Selvina, our councilwoman, she has as well. Khalil, the assemblyman, has always been one of our biggest supporters, and of course Donovan as well. Donovan, which is our borough president, he has as well. You know, I don't want to forget anybody, so if I do, just charge it to my head and not my heart. But as well, doing gun violence work, you know, because that's important. And I believe when you give these young women what we're giving them in HERS, and when you give these young men what you're giving them in VOT, then you're giving them something to do, you're giving them something to think about, and then their mindset, you know, begins to change. And they will begin to want to pull out of those streets. And when you want to pull out those streets, then a lot of things begin to stop happening. That would be some of that gun violence. That would be some of that promiscuity. That would be some of that drug use, because now they have more to look forward to, you know, and really the key to that is being an individual that's transparent as well. You know what I'm saying? You got to be real with these kids, because these kids really don't want to hear nothing you talking about that's phony. And they can see it a mile away. So if you really don't have a heart to really be out here and help, then pass the torch and give it to somebody that you know do. Because these kids, there's a lot of trauma out here, like my girl said. And so we got to help these kids with this trauma, things that they were, you know, not able to unleash. And then when they get to schools, they're giving it to these teachers, because I'm in these schools and I see how they do with the teachers. I see what's happening in the schools, a lot of things that's happening at home, that's happening in the streets. It's coming directly to the schools. And that's why I also want to give a shout out to the mayor's office to prevent gun violence as well, for neighborhood safety, because that's the reason why we have the school mediation contracts in 31 schools in New York City, which we needed and more, to help prevent some of this gun violence, to do conflict mediation, to help these young people learn how to resolve conflict in a more positive way, because we're not saying that conflict is not going to happen. So let's not be no fool and act like that's never going to happen. Stop, okay? Because there is going to be conflict, but it's how you resolve it. How do you get those tools to help resolve it? Is where we are with those particular issues. And I think that all the women on this line have something to contribute to that. And I think together, we can be a powerful force in making a change in each different area that we're passionate about, to just stand behind one another and make that come to light, because that's really another place in which that I am that's dear to me, is empowering the sisters and not frowning up upon the sisters. Not it's too much jealousy, it's too much envy, with that. What are you doing? Let me see what you're doing so I can help you. What am I doing to see what I'm doing so you can help me? And stop trying to see how far I could get ahead of you, because as a unit, we are much more stronger. But some women haven't arrived there yet, and that's fine too. But it's up to us women that have arrived there to continue to preach that and show that to the others, because that's the only way. At this stage and age, we have to lead by example, because nobody is listening to what you're talking about. They watching what you're doing. Nobody ain't listening to what you're talking about. They watching what you're doing. You understand? And contrary to what anybody and everybody may think, I just want to give a shout out to Rock Safe Streets as well, and Shelter in Arms. I love Rock Safe Streets and Shelter in Arms as well, but most of you may know I was the program manager, the program director, but I have resigned from that position. I resigned from that position because I wanted to be a full-fledged entrepreneur and be amongst women that are having their own, to be an example for others, and let God use me to be an example for others, so that others can see that it is possible from where you have came from. That's what this is all about. It ain't about trying to shame nobody or trying to do nothing about that. It's about me wanting to step into my calling and my purpose. And I've worked for Shelter in Arms for 7 years, and Rock Safe Streets is beautiful, and I want to support them, and I've learned a lot, and I'm grateful. But at the end of the day, I have stepped onto another plateau, and that's what this is all about. It's about growth and development. And it's about growth and development for our children. It's about growth and development for our community. And sometimes you have to lead by example. And so if that is going to be the case, then now I'm going to have to buckle up and do what it is that I need to do to lead by example, to let these children know that they have opportunities. It is possible for you. I grew up in the projects. When I pressed for the elevator and the elevator came, it was pissing it. So I didn't want to do that. So I walked up the stairs to note that you can come from that to being your own business owner. That's what that's about. And that's about God getting the glory of that, because he did that. And that's about letting the people know that too as well. You cannot leave that out. That is major.
And Roz, thank you so much. That was a powerful introduction.
I love you, ladies. I could go on for days. So
no,
I love
stick
you,
around,
ladies.
stick around. We got some questions.
Just my information as well will be with you guys.
Yes, you're not going.
We'll take it from here.
You're staying right here. Listen, you never have to apologize for entering the space and bringing up young men in that space, right? Because the reality is we're 50%. We're two sides of the same coin. The community doesn't exist without men and without women, right? So that's why we're so urgently having this conversation about what that safety looks like. But there's another conversation that has to happen about how we get to the point of violence and where it's stemming from in childhood and in youth trauma. So you're right on topic. You're just getting a little ahead of my question. So I'm going to throw out my first question, which is, and this is open to anyone that'd like to answer. I have about 4 questions, so I'm going to take 2 speakers for each question. What does safety look like to you in your ideal world, right? Because the assembly member, if he were here, he would say, imagine and think bigger. If we had the perfect response time, if we had the perfect setup, if we had the resources, what does safety look like for our sisters?
I feel like you want me to answer. Everybody got quiet. Okay, let me tell you what I feel like safety is. Safety is walking down the street and not getting sexually harassed. Safety is literally being able to wear what you want to wear. How big your booty is and how big your boobs are is nobody's business but your own. That's what safety is to me. It's the ability to be able to be who you are in your space without any type of apologies or any type of permission. I'm who I am. I should be able to be who I am and walk in who I am. And that's what safety is to me. And if I'm not in that space, I obviously don't feel safe. So there's places where you're not safe mentally, where you may not, where it's not a physical situation, where you're not physically in danger, but mentally you're in danger. It's not safe to be in places where people don't know how to respect you as a person. Rather, your gender, your sex, whatever you are, people need to respect you for who you are and where you are. So safety to me is being able to be yourself in all spaces.
No, I completely agree. And I'm sure a lot of us would agree on that angle as well. Is there anyone that want to talk about or speak about what does safety look like to you? Or for your organization, what does safety look like?
Yeah, I'll tackle that one. And I agree 100%. And Rosin, I had the pleasure of meeting Queen before, and when I tell you she's a force to be reckoned with, oh baby, she was my intro into the Far Rockaways, and I was blown away by her. So shout out to Queen for sure. I think for me, I believe safety is education, right? Because so often you'll hear that saying, if you knew better, you do better. So education is the key component in doing better. You know, I'm a survivor of domestic violence, and you know, the person that caused me harm, we started off, I was 15, he was 17. He didn't know any better. Had we both known better, we would have chose differently. And because education wasn't the key component, right? In my community, Black and brown community, domestic violence isn't a conversation. That's not a topic. Nobody wants to talk about it. It's deemed heavy. Like I said before, it's deemed as a heavy conversation. And if no one's talking to you about it, how do you know how to internalize those feelings? You know, currently right now, I'm working with a young man in the Rockaways who had a domestic violence situation, and helping him understand what those feelings were, how his part played in it, and just getting through why DV and teen dating violence is not acceptable. But if you were raised around it, right, to you, it is acceptable. If no one told you not to do that, then you think that that's okay. So for me, safety is education. If you knew better, you do better. And that's something that has to land on the hands of our own community, right? We can't rely just on the school's education. We got to step up in these communities, as all these amazing women are, taking it into their own hands, right? Be the change that you want to see. And that starts with these young kids.
Thank you so much, Angelina. You led right into my next question, right? When we're talking about education, and we're talking about how important domestic violence education is for our young people, but across our generations, right? We're not only talking about the idea of formalizing education, and I'm hoping that Madison can speak a little bit about what curriculum or formalizing education can look like. What tools can we prepare those that are in academia to look out for? But in the general scope of things, and I'm hoping that Shavonna can tap in on this, what is community education in this space, right? How do you have those difficult conversations? How do you navigate those spaces?
Thank you, Monet. So the first thing I'd like to say on behalf of that is recognizing that first and foremost, when you're an educator, a student can't learn if they're traumatized, right? The frontal part of the brain just will not function. It will literally be cut off. And the part of the brain that will be activated is the fight or flight mechanism. So as an educator, you need to be cautious and compassionate if you notice and recognize your student is in fight or flight mode. And if you're not prepared or well equipped to deal with that, and which they might not be, there's a social worker on call, there's a school guidance counselor on call. So you know what, Tom? I'm noticing today you don't seem like you're in a green space, which means go for learning. Tell me what space you're in. You can teach the teachers how to help self-regulate. The children become identify self-regulations. It's simple. 4 colors every day. You put a marble on your desk. Miss, red means I'm really, really angry right now. I'm not in the mood. I can't process anything you're saying to me. That teacher takes that moment to acknowledge and validate where they are and say, this is not the space for you right now. I will circle back at lunchtime. I circle back on the next break. But right now, let me get you the appropriate care you need so you can get into that green space. It's not just ignoring and meeting a calendar. So I taught in the DOE, and there's this calendar in which they want us to teach that does not identify or acknowledge a child's emotional state or well-being. It's like, get this done by this date, get this done by this date. So the first thing I think a teacher needs to do is learn how to identify where a student's emotions are and help them to process in that moment and get to the right person or the right expert. Then if you have the right social worker, or you have the right guidance counselor, they can say to Tom, Timmy, I'm so proud of you. You've learned to identify when you're in a green space, a red space, a yellow space, or a blue space. And all those colors mean something. They mean, I'm kind of okay, I'm not okay, I'm great, something bad is happening, I don't know how to talk about it. And then you teach them, where do you feel it in your body? I want you to redirect this energy. I want you to take ownership of your own emotional support, right? So you teach them these little tools so that they don't end up in a fight and suspended and miss more days, right? They don't end up leaving school. And like someone said earlier, you might not be able to take it out on the person who's abusing you. So you take it out on somebody in class or the teacher, as Rosalind alluded to earlier. I can't beat up my father. He's beating my butt every day. But miss you, I know you can't touch me, so I'm going to wild out on you. The negative consequences fall back on me as a student. Now I'm suspended. Now I have this record on my record, my permanent record. When I get to high school, they're holding it against me. We're failing them. We're failing them because we're not first acknowledging that their emotion is not a maybe, a wonder if we should. No, it's a necessity, right? So we have to start teaching our teachers, our educators, how to be compassionate, that our students all don't come from a cookie cutter home where everything is great. They wake up hungry. They wake up traumatized. They were probably just raped last night. They're dealing with incest. And these are just some of the things that I dealt with when I worked in the Far Rockaway Teen Library as a social work intern. My first week on the intern, I'm in the bathroom locked up crying because the kids are coming to me like, yeah, my uncle raped me last night and my mom is sleeping with him. The guys on the block are putting a gun in my back because I'm 14 years old, and they're saying to me that they're not going to check you're 14. I'm forcing you to hold this gun for me. And you have to go to school now, and the teacher expects you to concentrate, and the whole time you're worried, this drug dealer is watching me, my mom, there's no food in the house, and we want you to pass these ELA tests and these other unrealistic, non-negotiable for me. So the first thing we need to do as adults is realize where we are failing our kids, where we're not meeting them where they are. So for me, we spoke earlier about a character education. A big part of character education is not just for the students, but for the teachers and the educators. Where are we falling short? What services and training do we need so we can better meet them where they are? So I think the first before we put it on the kids, we have to take ownership as the adults in the room. And I'll give you one more example of what I mean, and then I'll pass it on. I had a student, I was covering a class. I knew him in passing. He wasn't my regular student, but his teacher was out that day. He would not sit down. He was off the wall, jumping off the chair. I mean, he was kicking the other kids. I mean, he was off the wall. I took him outside the class and I said, what's going on? Why are you not sitting down? Why are you not open to learning? He said, I'm bored. I'm bored. I don't want to hear this crap. I don't want this stupid. You know what it did? I went home that weekend and I created a whole new system that was culturally relevant to what would inspire him to learn. You're bored with the way I'm teaching math? I created a basketball game. I want you to count the distance between how much you're shooting, the ratio you're shooting in the basketball game. You see people playing dices? I want you to add up the dices that you throw in the math, then subtraction, then multiplication. The kids started getting into it. The girls were into fashion. I want you to use ELA words to tell me, compare and contrast who wore it best with your ELA text. That is us meeting them where they are and not me saying, I'm going to call your house, you're a problem. They are never the problem. A child is I'm never jacking when an adult says a child is a problem. We're failing them. And so first and foremost, we take a step back and say, what can we as the adult As the educator, as the social worker, what can we do different? What training do we need to continue? And as adults who work with kids, our training is lifelong. Lifelong, because new studies are coming out. There's this new study now that's found out about like last year about music therapy. Do you know how dope that is for a student to connect with a teacher through music? Oh, you know those lyrics, you know about this, you know what's in my what's going on in my circle? That's a way to build rapport. We have to come out of our own comfort zone, and we have to be what the kids need. So I think back to what you said, curriculum is all great and gravy, right? That's wonderful. And you know, we're going to talk about curriculum, but before we get to the curriculum, we have to learn first how to address, validate, and meet the needs of their emotions. And some of those emotions are not easy. Some of those emotions are rage. Some of those emotions are insecurity. Some of those emotions are what Angelina said. I'm doing the best that I know because this is what I see. I'm conditioned to respond this way. Don't treat me as my symptom. These are just the symptoms of what I know. Treat me as what I could be, the best version of myself. So it starts on us.
Thank you so much. And Tawana, am I echoing there too? Can y'all hear me?
You're echoing a bit.
Yeah, I just wanted to clarify why, right, we're talking about families and domestic violence, right? Before you talk about the community education part, let's just quickly define the difference between, domestic violence and intimate partner violence, right? So I know those two things often gets conflated, and I don't want the audience to, be like, oh, why are we talking about families? Because it's all related. Violence is violence, and it stems from within.
Okay, it's my table to go. All right, so let's go back to where the kids are. The kids are seeing the violence at home. The kids are seeing all this chaos at home. And before I segue any further, Madison, I'm hugging you from here, girl, because you have the energy I have here. Like, yes, you're on it. So when they see these things at home, they're going to go to school, of course, and they're going to show these behaviors. But what happens when they grow up? You got the sons thinking it's okay to beat on their girlfriends, beat on their wives. You got the daughters thinking it's okay to be beat on, to be controlled, to be manipulated, to be a punching bag. They're conditioned to accept these things. And it's harder to stop these situations from happening when that seed has already been planted and is so deeply rooted. And it's not 1 or 2 kids. We're talking about 8, 9 kids, cousins that's seeing this, mid-age relatives that's seeing it, the aunties that sit there and say, oh, just pray about it. It's okay. We'll just wait for him to change. He has different ways to talk about how he loves you, but those words and actions aren't love. The don't tell the outside world your family business people. These are the problems that we have, where they don't want to address the fact that these situations happening at home needed to be rectified way before they got worse. Intimate partner violence is pretty much sprouted from the passing of domestic violence. Domestic, of course, we look at because it's happening within the home. Mothers, fathers, sisters, brothers, whoever's in that house, they take it outside as they grow. John's going to learn to drag Jane by her hair because that's what he saw. And Jane's going to learn to take it because that's what she saw. We need to reinforce education of these situations on the elementary school level. We're not going to even go to high school anymore because I have my 9-year-old who she's starting to see boys. And we have to have that talk of why you shouldn't be seeing them the way that you see them. And then I have to look at what she's watching and seeing why she's being led that way. Back to the education tip. I find that the problem with the schools, they're more focused on making sure that school gets that high grade to keep getting that funding. They don't give a rat's butt about these kids. Only very few teachers really do care about how these kids focus, how they feel, what's happening once they leave. Did you eat? Why do you look so tired? I'm pretty sure quite a few teachers don't know how to spot a cutter because they're not looking at the kids. They're looking at the work. I've done dropped my children off and I've seen 4th graders with the slice marks. And when I bring it to the school, its attention, oh, she always comes to school like that. But that's not normal. Unless you've been through trauma, you're not going to see the signs that we see. And this is something that has to be brought to the forefront. Yeah, the schools need to have their funding. We get it. You want them to pass these state exams so they look good to other schools. We get that too. But what's the point of having a high performing school when the kids are killing themselves? Domestic violence goes way beyond what we're talking about right here. You have children who they get tired of seeing the fighting. They get tired of being the punching bag. They get tired of all of that they have to hold on and try to hold a game face in. They're tired because they've been hiding under the table crying at night. They haven't eaten. It's cold. It's dark. Uncle such and such is touching them. The aunt is out there soliciting them. Mom's never home. She's outside walking. Dad's in jail, in and out. They get tired and they do give up. And they're so focused on these grades and this black and white paper, they don't see these kids are really falling through these cracks. Domestic violence goes beyond these bruises. We have to see right now, I won't say it's too late for us as survivors, but we got the young ones coming up and we're losing more of them than we need to. So the education format needs to be reconstructed. We need to get more people on the ground. Us as community organizations, we do the work. It will be nothing to go ahead and go into the schools if they let us in. Not every school is open to the idea of retraining. They like the idea because they see organizations like, hey, if we need something done, they can bring us resources, they can bring us supplies. They look at us for that. They don't look at us as a way to save the kids that they're teaching. So I think that aspect, that is the main point right now. If we really want to see a change with these kids, we have to attack at that level.
Thank you so much, Savannah. And as we're thinking about this legislation and what's important and these sort of agency and systematic and procedural changes, these are the conversations that we're going to continue to have, right? So the next question I have is...
Can I just add something real quick? And it's going to be 2 minutes. I won't be long.
Rosalind.
Can I add something? It's not going to be long. I just want to say to the school piece, and I just thank you, ladies, for everything that you said. And I think that that's why it's very important to have what they call the school conflict mediation in each particular school. As I said earlier when I spoke, it is through the mayor's office to prevent violence, our neighborhood safety, which is the conflict mediation contract that is in 31 schools. And that contract is helping in the schools, these students, as well as the support for the staff as well, to kind of help the staff kind of understand those issues, because they're not from those, some of the staff are not from those Black and brown communities and don't understand what that's like. So the support of the school mediators is to help the staff understand that, and to also help the kids with whatever it is that they are, dealing with or facing. And that could be from a gamut of many different things, as we said, from anywhere from drug use to promiscuity, or just basically just really needing a mentor. It doesn't have to always be something negative, because you do have those in school that is not always negative, but the school mediation contract is there to help both. So I just think that it's so important for it to be in not only just 31 schools, because I know all schools throughout New York City could definitely really use that extra support from caring organizations that really want to serve and make a difference to the young people.
Thank you so much, Ross. That was a very important point. And if folks want more information about what schools have that program, let us know and we'll pull that. But also, if you're curious about this, call up your schools. Call up, even if you're not a parent, if you're living in a neighborhood with a school, call them up and ask them what they're doing and what their infrastructure is to protect their students, but to prevent violence, right? And see how everyone can get involved, right? Because it takes a village. What we're dealing with, it's really, really going to be necessary for it to be an all hands on deck way to correct what we're seeing as a public health crisis for gun violence, but just violence, the uptick in violence from this pandemic. So I have a question that's specifically for Christina from the audience. And I'm going to ask that after Christina responds, Simone, since you gave us our grounding exercise in the beginning, if you have additional resources or practices for just overall wellness and coping, this would be a great time to share. So that question reads, what are some effective coping mechanisms you can suggest when you find yourself, don't butcher me, Christina, say the word, it's catastrophe, but with
I don't
the
even know if that's a real word. Catastrophizing. Yeah. Yeah.
yes, I
Yes.
what you mentioned earlier. Yeah.
Yes.
So what are some
Yeah.
coping
Yeah.
mechanisms?
Yeah, and it's something, that I know to myself. And it wasn't until it was, a lady, her name is Ramona, who, after she did that little exercise with me, just like 5 or 10 minutes after I was speaking at an engagement, I actually was like, hey, would you want to be on my board? So she's actually been with me like 6 or 7 years now because she's just so good with people, right? And she's also a survivor, so she knows from her own lived experience like what she was doing and how she helped herself heal, and so she's really able to work with others. And so what helped me in the moment to get over or to realize when I'm catastrophizing is to try to recenter and ground myself in reality, right? So just asking myself, like, am I in immediate danger right now, or is there any threats to me in this very moment, right? And if they are, what can I do to address them, right? To have like a more action oriented mindset than just like letting my wheels continuously spin for hours and hours on all the problems and all the ways that something really bad is going to happen. Because I think I read this report that something like 92% of the things that we worry about never happen. And the like other 8%, or either it doesn't happen or we can actually do something about it to kind of like avert it. And the other 8% was going to happen anyway. And there's just nothing you could do about it. But just think about all the things that we worry about in a day that never come about, right? So just really kind of like grounding yourself in reality. Other things that I do is try to do positive affirmations, right? And speak positively about the situation, right? Try not to have a negative thought about it. This is going to work out. This is going to work out for my good and my family's, benefit. And instead of thinking up all the negative things that can happen, because you have like a 50-50 chance, right? That it could be bad, but it also could be really good. And half the times, or more than half the times, it turns out really good. And we spent all those hours agonizing and stressing over something that either never happened or it actually turned out better than we ever thought it would. So those are several things that I do when I find myself blowing a situation up bigger than it really is, and just kind of like making it shrink down again to the actual size that is, or even trying to make it smaller than it really is. Like, no, this is going to work out. No, this is going to work out for my good. And even if it does go bad, there's some lesson in there that I'll be able to use later in one of these talks, right? It's something I'll learn from it. And so that's how I try to look at each of the situations that come up in my life. And we all have these times, right? We all have situations that come up that we could blow up and just worry about and like make them bigger than they really are. But what we want to try to do is consistently shrink those things down. You don't have any power over me. You're not going to affect my family. This is going to turn around for my good. And it usually does.
Perfect. Thank you so much. And Simone?
Hey everyone. I just want to thank you all so much for the work that you do. It's so necessary. And I really enjoyed hearing all of you speak. I'll share just some practices that I use. I'm also a survivor. I work with survivors every day from the Indo-Caribbean community. And what works for me is it's as simple as just taking 3 deep breaths, like just to get back into my body, just to feel regrounded and centered again. I think there's so many things that can trigger us as survivors, just from so much of the trauma that we're holding. And I find that pausing to like recognizing that. And, sometimes it means that my palms are getting really sweaty. My heart is starting to beat faster. And the moment that I recognize that, I can walk, I can move somewhere private, even if I'm sitting at my desk, and I can take those 3 deep breaths just to get back into my body. Journaling has been really helpful. Just like stream of consciousness, just being able to take pen to paper and writing whatever needs to be purged out of your mind and out of your body and spirit. That's been a really useful healing tool for me. Affirmations, like what Christina just talked about, like creating new beliefs to turn around a lot of the limiting beliefs that we might be holding. And, there's often these narratives that we tell ourselves. I call them gremlins. Those little gremlins like to pop up, and we need to have a way to combat that. And so for me, affirmations are the most powerful way to turn, to create a new belief. I am powerful. I am beautiful. I am strong. I am resilient. I love me. Those are some of the things that I tell myself. And I have a 2-year-old daughter, so I'm teaching her those things too, because I feel like it's just so important that we ground ourselves in just confident and positive thoughts about who we are. And I think the last one is just being able to take a walk outside. I'm really big into oracle cards, so I pulled a card for myself this morning, and the reminder was there's like so much healing just in nature. So like just being able to get outside of your home, away from the computer, just to feel the wind, feel the sun on your face. I think that alone can also be really healing and helpful.
And thank you so much, Simone. I think that's really, really helpful. I think a lot of things can be minimized once we get back to nature, to be quite honest, right? So that's why that change of scenery is so, so important. And as we're coming up on our closing of this program, I just want to say thank you so much to all of you for not only joining this call tonight, but also being on our briefing earlier on this morning, where we spent about 2 hours talking about legislation and cultural and education shifts to legislators and organizations across the state and the city. So that was a really important conversation to have on the Destiny Smothers bill and the Purple Alert bill that's carried by Senator Salazar in the Senate and Senator James Sanders Jr. So before we hop off, I'd like to give everyone the opportunity to answer 2 questions, and then you can leave your organization's information at the end of your statement. The first question is if you have to choose the superpower to use in this work, whether it be water, earth, fire, or air, what would it be? And then I want you to just leave the audience with something, and then you can share information about where to find you and how to connect further. So whoever wants to start off with choosing an element, there's only one right answer, but don't make that make you feel nervous. So it looks like Kylie is ready.
I'll go first, no problem. My elements always fire, always. If you know me, it makes sense. If you don't know me, it still makes sense. I think this was a great space. All of y'all women have been giving me all this shero power. I've been feeling all this black girl magic, and it's making me so excited. I just want to say thank you. Thank you. Like I said, Ocean Bay Community Development Corporation. I am the service coordinator manager there. I'm here to service the community. I'm here. I'm in the streets. You'll see me. I live locally. I work locally. I care locally. So I just want to say thank you very much. Yes, and my element is fire. Am I choosing somebody, or are you going to choose somebody, Monet? Okay, I'm going to choose Madison. Do your element. Yeah, I chose you. That's right. I did.
I was trying to look around to avoid eye contact. Okay, so I'm actually going to say fire as well. And the reason why I say fire is because fire can serve 2 purposes. It can warm us up and provide comfort, or it can destroy what's not working, right? So we want to create paradigm shifts, and we also want to be compassionate. And I love where Monet's office, they have a saying, compassion and accountability. And I feel like fire does both of those things. So my information is I'm at Queens Defenders in the Far Rockaway branch, and I'm the caseworker there. Like Kali, I am excited and I'm driven and I'm passionate about pouring into Far Rockaway, but I'm just passionate about working with young people at-risk people and those who are vulnerable. I get passionate and angry when I see people being taken advantage of, and especially people who don't know and don't have access to the correct resources. So I just want to be that person to champion for those. So being on this call with other women who feel the same way, I feed off that passion. It fuels me. It gives me the additional energy and drive. So I genuinely say thank you to everybody on this call tonight. You guys, you ladies all rock and all are amazing. You made me cry. But that's the work we do because, it's a life call. And so thank you. And so my email, I put it in the chat as well, but I also say my email is mckenzie@queensdefenders.org. So if anybody want to reach out to me, part of my role at Queens Defender is community development. So if we can collaborate in service of the community, in service of our children and our families, please let me know. I would look forward to that.
You got it. You got it. So on that.
Oh, I have to pick someone, right? Oh, man. Angelina! Sorry. I'm just throwing it to you, colleague to colleague. What you got this?
I knew she was going to pick me. And don't worry about Madison crying. Madison is a crier. She could cry at the drop of a dime. My first time meeting Madison, she started crying. So, I forgot the question. Jesus. Okay. So you guys can reach me. I'm with Queens Defender.
Wait, Angelina, you have to choose an element. Fire, water, air, or earth.
Of course, my element is fire, right? Like, I mean, and I'm not going to be nice about it. I'm ready to burn everything down. So light it up. That's going to be my element. I'm really a fire sign. I'm a Leo, so it just all makes sense. So I'm at Queens Defenders. I am the Dove caseworker there. And you guys can reach Queens Defenders. Wait, I have a whole thing to read. Okay. Queens Defenders Dove program is twofold. The first one is educating the community through workshop, webinars, outreach events in Queens. We provide outside of the box services for people that are affected by domestic violence. We receive referrals from Safe Horizon, NYPD, and other community partners. We do from safety planning to emergency services, housing assistance, immigration services, and much, much more. Our team is made up by peer advocates and professionals who carry the passion and the education to empower and assist whenever, wherever we are needed, literally. You and anyone that wants to learn more about, Queens Defenders and all the amazing things that we do can reach us on our social media. You can email clientresource@queensdefenders.org or call the hotline, which is 718-261-3047, extension 608, which a staff member has 24/7 in an event of an emergency. You can also contact me through Rosado at queensdefenders.org. Again, I want to thank every single one of you amazing women of color. I just want to highlight that part, right? Like this whole month, I have been in so many spaces with women of color. I can't even tell you how it boosts my energy to see so many powerful women that are of color, that look like me, that can get on these platforms, and these amazing young girls can see women that look like them, that come from the same neighborhoods as they have, and the neighborhoods that they still live in, and see us all thriving. I'll put the information also in the chat in case I spoke too fast, so y'all ain't catch on to that. And again, thank you all for having me. And of course, right, I'm gonna pass it to my sister in purple, Shavonna.
Oh man. So it's a given, fire sign. So of course that's gonna be my element. I don't care if they're ready for me or not. I'm coming with full destruction, or we're gonna illuminate. It's your choice which one you want to do. I operate an organization, as I said, that does emergency transport. And one thing I will say for certain, you're going to see me pop up in these schools. You're going to see me in all these community events. As long as I'm not at work or I'm on mommy duty, you're going to see me. We have to make sure we start breaking ground, because one thing I don't do, and my sister in purple knows this, anyone who's come across me knows this, I'm making sure you know me, whether it's going to be good or bad. I'm going to leave a taste in your mouth, good or bad. You're going to just give in at this point, because we're not going to let up. You're going to accept the fact that we're coming to change when it comes to this DV situation, when it comes to anti-violence. We're coming in and just make room. I'm bringing my chair. We're going to have these conversations. I want you so uncomfortable that your stomach hurts. That's my mission. I didn't survive violence to sit here and just watch things happen. I came to be the change I need to see. I posted my email, and if you don't see it there, or you're listening or you're watching, pretty much any of these lovely ladies you see on this platform, reach out. That's how people get in contact with me if they have someone that needs to be transported, or if it's anything that I could provide, is usually linked to me that way. But if you want to get to me direct, Ladies of Lavender Incorporated or inc@gmail.com. I'm on Facebook. I'm on Instagram. Reach out. I don't sleep. I'll definitely get to you. I'm going to pass the mic. Christina, did you go? You went already? All right, take it.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Shavana. Yeah, it's just been an honor and a privilege to share this stage with you ladies. I feel so blessed and honored to be here. I I guess I'm not gonna say fire because everybody said fire. I don't really even think I'm fire. I have fire inside me, but I feel more like maybe earthy, like more grounded. Um, and my one takeaway would be just choose courage, right? Every single time, just choose the thing that is going to push you to the next level. Choose the courage option and not the fear option. Um, and I work with two organizations. One is Speranza Human Compassion Project, can be found at speranzaproject.org. It's SPERANZA project.org. We're always looking to work with people in the community. We do research, we develop courses for first responders, we do community events, all that. And so that's probably the best way. The other one is just kind of like our technology that we kind of spread into agencies to do the training through our Vanguard Medicine avenue. And yeah, and I put my information, my email, just Christina at speranzaproject.org. You can contact me anytime. I would love to work with you ladies. I also do a podcast called Mindful on Purpose, where we talk with people who are doing innovative things in the space around DV. We talk about their experiences and what they see. And I do it once a month, this first Friday of the month at 10 a.m. East Coast time. If anybody wants to listen or join in or be would allow me to interview you. So it'd be great. Thank you so much. Appreciate it. Oh, next we're going to go to Rosalind.
Hey guys, you guys can hear me? Yeah. So I want to say this was amazing as well. It was a pleasure seeing some of you again and meeting some of you for the very first time. I too have been in some amazing spaces throughout this month for Women's Month. So I guess I'm with you on that, girlfriend. Everybody went with the fire things. I'm going with water. And I'm going with water because I actually love water. Anybody that knows me knows I love water as well as I am a firecracker. So I want to go with that. And I also do want to go with seek God first. Get yourself grounded, seek yourself with a sense of spirituality. I think that in this day and age, it's important to know about spirituality, know about whoever you want to believe in, but mine is Jesus Christ that I believe in. And I'm not here to be a preacher, but I am here to spread the gospel, and I would never deny him. And so I wanted to let Facebook know that, as well as you ladies on here. I think that that's very important. The work that we all do, we are servants, and we put a lot of ourselves into this work. And so we need to know that. And I can be reached, yes, I see at ros.mason@gmail.com, or anybody that knows me is I could really just be reached pretty much in the streets. I'm on the ground. So any day of the week, you can find me anywhere. I might be on my Beach 56th Street. I'm always in the street. I'm in the field. I'm a frontline worker as well as I could be behind the scenes. So I'm out there, and I'm more than willing to help anybody that is coming in contact with the sound of my voice. If I don't have those resources, then I'm willing to help put that person to those resources. And that is what QRP does. We service the community, whether it is the elderly, whether it is teenagers, whether it is individuals that are a bit older that are trying to find their way. We're just trying to be of a service to the community and make the community a better place. And so with that being said, if we don't have the service, we're going to try to put you right into the right hands, and we'll follow you through your process. And that's what QRP does, because we got a heart and a love for the people in the community. And I have to pass it. So with that being said, Monet, I'm going to pass it to you. I'm going to take it back to Monet because that's my daughter's name. So Monet, it's on you.
No, it's on Simone now. She was the last to speak last time. So go ahead, Simone.
Okay. But you got to go too, though.
I will. I'm going to tell y'all the answer.
Oh, there's an answer?
Right answer.
No, I didn't know there was a right or wrong.
There's only one right answer, Rosalind. Only one.
Really?
Mm-hmm. But I'm going to let Simone go first.
Okay, sorry, Simone.
That's okay. I'm gonna pick water too. I'm a Pisces, and the ways of being that water reminds me of, it's a lot of flow, it's a lot of ease, it's calm, but it can also be tumultuous. It could be a tsunami if it needs to. And I'm with Jahadi Sisters. I'm a co-founder and a co-director. And you can reach us at jahadisisters@gmail.com if you have any Guyanese or Trini survivors that you work with that are looking for a community of support and a healing space. Definitely send them our way. And the message I want to leave is, these last 2 years of this pandemic has been challenging in so many ways. Just find quiet moments to love up on yourself. Like, for real. A moment to just give yourself a hug, to take a warm bath, to even just drink water. Like, how many of us just forget to drink water? So yeah, quiet moments to love up on yourself. And back to you, Monet.
Thank you so much, Simone. And yes, there is only one right answer. If you are familiar, this question is actually from a show called Avatar: The Last Airbender. So the Avatar is the answer because you need all 4 elements to effectively affect change. You need the fire, you need the water, you need the earth, you need the air. So of course, we have a balanced answer because this is the office of Assemblymember Khalil M. Anderson. And if he was here, he would be the Avatar, right? So I want to thank all of you so very much for this amazing workshop. I'm getting texts and emails left and right talking about how great y'all are. I will definitely be sending out an email. Well, you guys are all on an email thread together, but feel free to go ahead and share your information there. On behalf of the Office of Assemblymember Khalil Anderson, I'd like to leave us with what his saying is, right? We are leading through compassion and accountability, and it is his job as a legislator to advocate in the legislature for our communities and for the benefit of pushing our communities forward. There's no other way to do it. And thank y'all so much for participating in co-governance. It's so important. It's not enough to just elect someone and then, be hands off. These sorts of programming, these sorts of conversation is something that we hope we see across all of our communities moving forward. So thank you all so much again. Thank you to all our viewers on Facebook, on Twitter. The Zoom room I heard was very, very excited throughout the programming. So there was really great comments there. So thank you all again. And I really would love for you to enjoy the rest of your evenings. Take the rest of the night off. No more work, and just we'll take it from here. Thank y'all.
Good night, everyone.
Good night.